Good evening, fellow thrill-seekers. Welcome back to Horror Hues, your one-stop channel for all things eerie, cryptic, and downright hair-raising. Tonight, we have a tale that's bound to send shivers down your spine. If you thought Bigfoot was just a myth, well, think again. We're about to dive into the haunting tale of Pinewood Hollow, the terror of Bigfoot. Sit tight, grab your comfort snacks, and remember, there's no shame in leaving the lights on. Let's get into it. The mist-shrouded town of Pinewood Hollow was as ancient as the evergreen forest that cradled it. Nestled within Washington state's wilderness, the town was a quaint amalgamation of old timber houses and fading traditions, the populace living in harmony with the eerie beauty of the forest that breathed life into their little community. Jack Morrison, once a renowned cryptozoologist, was the reluctant sheriff of Pinewood Hollow. Jack had traded the rush of city life for a quieter existence after an undisclosed event that marked him deeply, both physically and mentally. His once sparkling blue eyes were now a stormy gray, mirroring the turmoil he carried within. Despite its antiquity and isolation, the town was not untouched by the whispers of modern folklore. Stories and rumors of Bigfoot had passed down generations like a cherished yet feared heirloom. Large, hairy, walking on 2 feet, the mythical creature was said to roam the dense, dark forest that bordered the town. Jack, having studied cryptids extensively in his previous career, was familiar with these tales. However, his recent years in Pinewood Hollow and the trauma that had brought him here made him a firm skeptic. He preferred believing in tangible criminals over unseen monsters. After all, reality had taught him that monsters wore human faces more often than not. As the town sheriff, he handled everything from domestic disputes to the occasional lost hiker. Jack's days were filled with routine patrols, and his nights were accompanied by the low hum of an old radio dispatcher and cups of lukewarm coffee. One summer evening, as the sun began to dip behind the towering pines, casting long, ghastly shadows across the town, Jack was pulled away from his daily paperwork by a frantic knocking. In burst Tom, a local farmer known more for his homemade moonshine than his alarming stories. "The cattle, Jack. Something's got my cattle again," he exclaimed, breathless, his eyes wild with a mixture of anger and fear. The blood drained from Jack's face, and a knot tightened in his stomach. Over the past week, several farms had reported their livestock brutally killed, with no trace of the predator. It was an unnerving disruption in their usually peaceful lives, and the townsfolk were scared. As Tom recounted his discovery, the word slipped out, Bigfoot. It hung in the room like a chilling fog, the old tales resurfacing, sending a shiver down Jack's spine. He dismissed the suggestion immediately, believing it to be the work of wolves or a rogue bear. However, as Jack journeyed to Tom's farm later that evening, a cold wind howling past him, he couldn't shake off the creeping sense of dread. As the sun dipped below the horizon, and the world was swallowed by the inky night, the forest seemed to come alive with sinister whispers. Something was not right in Pinewood Hollow. Little did Jack know, he was on the cusp of an encounter that would shake his skepticism to its core. Several days had passed since the livestock killings began, and with each incident, the atmosphere in Pinewood Hollow grew increasingly tense. Yet, the true shock to the community came when 16-year-old Billy Tanner disappeared. Known for his adventurous spirit, Billy was last seen heading into the woods, his camera slung around his neck. His intended destination? The site of the latest livestock attack. The town was galvanized into action. As day turned to evening, the search for Billy intensified. Jack led the group, his heart pounding as they ventured deeper into the dense forest. The world around them was eerily silent, save for the soft rustling of leaves and the occasional distant hoot of an owl. After hours of searching, Jack stumbled upon something that stopped him in his tracks. There, embedded in the soft, damp earth, was a footprint. But this was not a footprint of any known creature, it was gargantuan, far larger than any humans or animals. Jack's breath hitched in his chest as he looked at the unmistakable shape. His mind raced back to his cryptozoology days, to countless reports of Bigfoot sightings, always accompanied by similar footprints. But he dismissed the idea. It was impossible. It had to be a hoax, he convinced himself. Pressing on, they eventually found Billy's camera, discarded and slightly damaged, nestled against a fallen log. Jack gingerly picked it up, scrolling through the photographs that Billy had taken. Most were of the forest, the odd dead animal. But the last photo made Jack's blood run cold. It was blurry, rushed, but there in the background loomed a massive, indistinct figure. The image was dark, shadowy, but its sheer size was undeniable. Terror gripped him. For the first time in years, Jack felt a sliver of doubt nibbling at his staunch skepticism. The photograph, combined with the colossal footprint, was unsettling. The search party returned to Pinewood Hollow empty-handed that night. The town was steeped in fear. Billy's disappearance, the strange footprints, and now the ominous photograph had led to a surge in whispers about the Bigfoot. Jack was conflicted. He'd always been the man of science, of evidence and logic. Yet, he was confronted with something that defied all rational explanation. He wouldn't, believe that Bigfoot was responsible, but there was a growing sense of dread within him. Haunted by the chilling image from Billy's camera, he decided to reach out to his old friend and colleague, Emma, a renowned cryptozoologist. Her excitement was palpable even over the static-laden phone line. "Jack, you know as well as I do that this could be the evidence we've been searching for all these years," she insisted. Despite his lingering doubts, Jack agreed for Emma to visit Pinewood Hollow. If there was even the slightest chance that Bigfoot was more than a legend, he needed her expertise. As he hung up the phone, the reality of the situation weighed heavily on him. The once peaceful town was teetering on the edge of hysteria, and it was up to him to restore order, whatever that would mean in the days to come. Days turned into a blur of anxiety and anticipation in Pinewood Hollow as the residents awaited Emma's arrival. Jack, a mix of dread and curiosity churning in his stomach, was busy re-examining the footprint cast and the haunting photo. His former skepticism was taking a backseat to his desire to uncover the truth. Upon her arrival, Emma wasted no time. Her vibrant, electric energy was a sharp contrast to Jack's grim seriousness. Yet, they shared a mutual respect and understanding, rooted in their past adventures in the world of cryptozoology. Emma examined the evidence meticulously, her excitement tangible. "These are the most compelling proofs I've ever seen, Jack," she admitted, her voice filled with awe and trepidation. "I just hope we're not chasing shadows," Jack replied, his mind still grappling with the mounting evidence of Bigfoot's existence. They planned a night expedition, intending to venture deeper into the forest. The residents of Pinewood Hollow, already on edge, reacted with apprehension, yet there was also a glimmer of hope. If anyone could solve the mystery, it was Jack and Emma. As the sun set, casting an orange hue over the landscape, they packed their gear. Armed with night vision cameras, traps, and tranquilizers, they set out into the vast expanse of the forest. The air was thick with tension as they moved deeper into the unknown. The forest was a different creature in the dead of night, the darkness seemed to pulsate with life. They navigated the undergrowth, the only light coming from their torches, which did little to penetrate the black abyss. It was in the deep recesses of the forest they first heard it, a low, guttural growl that sent shivers down their spines. The sound was unlike any animal they had ever encountered. It echoed around them, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Their hearts pounded in their chests as they continued their journey, the ominous growling a constant reminder of the danger they were in. Then, they felt it, an intense, almost tangible presence that seemed to watch them from the darkness. The temperature around them dropped suddenly, and a sense of dread washed over them. Every instinct screamed at them to turn back, but they pushed on, determined to find answers. Hours passed, and their expedition yielded no significant discoveries. As they decided to head back, they stumbled upon a cave hidden behind thick foliage. Inside, they found something that would change the course of their investigation. On the cold, damp cave floor, huddled into himself, was Billy. His eyes were wide with terror, his body shivering uncontrollably. His camera was clutched tightly in his hands. As they approached him, he looked up at them. His voice was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of an undeniable truth. "Bigfoot," he muttered, his voice echoing in the silent cave. Billy's whisper sent chills down their spines. Seeing the teenager in such a state of shock, muttering about Bigfoot, was a grim testament to the reality they were facing. They rushed Billy back to Pinewood Hollow, where he was immediately taken to the local clinic. Emma and Jack could only watch as the town grappled with the terrifying implications of their discovery. They wasted no time, however, poring over the evidence once again. The footprint cast, the photograph, Billy's testimony, they were pieces of a dark puzzle slowly coming together. As a cryptozoologist, Emma was thrilled by the mounting evidence. Jack, on the other hand, felt his skepticism crumbling under the weight of undeniable proof. "Jack, you need to accept it. We're dealing with Bigfoot. The evidence is irrefutable," Emma pressed, her eyes gleaming with a mix of fear and excitement. In the days that followed, they planned their next steps. They couldn't allow this creature to harm the town any longer. If it was indeed Bigfoot, they needed a way to capture it, to prove to the world that the creature was more than a legend. Armed with the knowledge of cryptids from their past, they strategized about potential traps, locations, and baits. They would need to outsmart this creature, an entity that had managed to evade human detection for generations. As they prepared, Jack stumbled upon a neglected box of old town records in the sheriff's office basement. Among dusty land deeds and forgotten incident reports, he found a weathered leather-bound diary. The diary belonged to the town's sheriff from the 1920s, a man named Harold Stone. Jack couldn't believe what he found inside, detailed accounts of similar occurrences to what they were experiencing. Livestock killings, strange footprints, and missing people. And there, in Harold's shaky handwriting, was the word that now haunted Jack's every waking moment: Bigfoot. Harold described a terrifying confrontation with the creature. He wrote about its massive size, its piercing howls that echoed through the night, and its eerie intelligence. But what unnerved Jack the most was Harold's belief that Bigfoot wasn't simply an animal. Harold wrote, "This creature isn't a beast. It's an entity, ancient, intelligent, and malevolent. It feeds on fear, draws strength from it. I can feel it watching us, delighting in our terror." Jack felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He shared his discovery with Emma, who, although fascinated, seemed to grow more concerned. If Harold's account was true, they were dealing with something far more dangerous than they had imagined. Undeterred, they pressed on, the stakes higher than ever. Their plan to trap Bigfoot was not only about proving its existence, but it had now become a mission to save their town. As they braced themselves for the confrontation, a sense of eerie anticipation fell over Pinewood Hollow. Unbeknownst to them, the real terror was yet to unfold. With Harold's diary in mind and the safety of Pinewood Hollow at stake, Jack and Emma prepared for the night that could change everything. They had set up traps around the perimeters of the town and in the deeper parts of the forest, near the cave where they had found Billy. As dusk fell, a thick blanket of anticipation and fear settled over the town. The residents, aware of the plan to trap Bigfoot, locked their doors and prayed for the night to pass uneventfully. Jack and Emma, flashlights and tranquilizer guns in hand, set out into the forest. The chilling words of Harold's diary echoed in their minds, amplifying the menace of the night. The forest was more alive than ever, each rustle and distant howl sending their hearts pounding. They moved cautiously, checking their traps and listening for any signs of their monstrous quarry. Hours passed in silence, the tension growing with each passing moment. Just when they started doubting their plan, they heard it, a guttural roar that shattered the silence of the night. It was different this time, more powerful, more terrifying. They followed the sound, adrenaline pumping through their veins. It led them to their largest trap set near the cave. To their shock and relief, the trap had been sprung. But what they found wasn't what they expected. Inside the trap, huddled against one corner, was Billy again. He looked more terrified than before, his eyes wide, his body trembling violently. They quickly opened the trap and Emma rushed to his side. "Billy, what happened?" she asked urgently, her voice shaking. Billy's eyes were glazed, his lips moving to form words. After a struggle, he finally whispered, "It knew. The trap. It led me here." The implications of Billy's words hit them like a punch. Not only was the creature intelligent enough to avoid their traps, but it also seemed to understand their plan. The terror of Harold's words was now a reality. This wasn't just a creature they were dealing with, it was a cunning, malevolent entity. While Emma comforted Billy, Jack stepped out of the cave, his mind reeling from the horrifying revelation. As he stood at the mouth of the cave, he noticed the storm clouds gathering, casting an ominous shadow over Pinewood Hollow. A shiver ran through him. A storm was the last thing they needed. But as the first drops of rain began to fall, Jack realized that the storm wasn't their biggest problem. The real storm was the creature lurking in the forest, playing a sinister game of fear. Emma's cry from inside the cave jolted him from his thoughts. He rushed back inside to find Billy unconscious. His skin was deathly pale, his breathing shallow. They needed to get him back to town, but with the storm brewing and the knowledge that the creature was still out there, the night had just become a living nightmare. The torrential rain turned the forest into a treacherous maze. Jack and Emma, Billy's unconscious form between them, navigated their way through the forest. Each step was fraught with danger, the fear of the creature's looming presence adding to their urgency. The woods echoed with the sound of the downpour and the distant roars of the creature, each roar closer than the last. They had to abandon their equipment to carry Billy, left with only their flashlights and tranquilizer guns. Jack's mind raced with the chilling possibilities. The creature was toying with them, deriving some perverse pleasure from their fear. Despite the storm and the danger, they made it back to Pinewood Hollow. Billy was immediately taken to the clinic, his condition critical but stable. But they couldn't rest. The creature was still out there, more menacing than ever. Driven by fear for their town and a resolve to end the terror, they decided to confront the creature. Armed with more potent tranquilizers and a newfound determination, they ventured back into the storm-ravaged woods. The forest seemed more ominous, the rain washing away any sense of familiarity. The footprints they had been following were now washed away, leaving them to rely on their instincts and the terrifying roars that seemed to guide them deeper into the forest. Eventually, they arrived at a clearing, a strange calm amidst the storm. Suddenly, the forest fell eerily silent. They barely had time to react when the creature lunged at them from the shadows, its massive form momentarily illuminated by a flash of lightning. The sight was terrifying, a hulking figure, covered in matted fur, its eyes glowing with a disturbing intelligence. Its roar echoed in the clearing, sending a wave of terror through them. Emma reacted quickly, firing a tranquilizer dart at the creature. It howled, swatting the dart away with a swift movement. With their worst fears confirmed, they faced the creature. Jack fired his tranquilizer, hitting the creature square in the chest. But it barely flinched. Instead, it advanced on them, its movements eerily graceful for such a massive creature. Out of darts and with the creature closing in, they feared the worst. It was then Jack remembered Harold's words. The creature fed on fear. Taking a deep breath, he stood his ground, his fear replaced by a surge of determination. He locked eyes with the creature, standing firm despite his racing heart. To his surprise and relief, the creature paused, its menacing eyes never leaving Jack's. In a final act of desperation, Emma fired their last dart. This time, it found its mark, plunging into the creature's neck. With a final roar, the creature swayed and finally collapsed. The silence that followed was deafening, the fallen creature a terrifying testament to the night's events. Their battle was over, but the night had taken its toll. As they returned to the town, Bigfoot's unconscious form left in the clearing, they knew their lives and the town of Pinewood Hollow would never be the same. The news of Bigfoot's capture spread like wildfire through Pinewood Hollow. The townsfolk, huddled in their homes, hardly dared to believe it. The nightmare, it seemed, was finally over. A group of men, led by Jack and Emma, returned to the clearing to find the creature still unconscious. With great effort, they transported it to a makeshift enclosure on the outskirts of town. A call was put out to renowned zoologists and cryptologists, the world about to witness the truth of a legend. Billy regained consciousness a day later, his first weak smile bringing a wave of relief to the townsfolk. His recovery was slow, but the boy who had been most affected by the creature's terror would heal in time, much like Pinewood Hollow. Jack and Emma, the heroes of the hour, were exhausted but relieved. They'd confronted their fears and the tangible embodiment of a legendary monster. Their lives had taken a terrifying detour, but they had protected their town, uncovering a truth that would change the world's perception of Bigfoot. As they waited for the world to descend upon their small town, life in Pinewood Hollow gradually returned to a semblance of normalcy. The livestock killings stopped, the children's laughter once again echoed through the streets, and for the first time in weeks, the night brought with it peace instead of fear. Harold's diary, once a dusty relic, was now the invaluable account of Pinewood Hollow's past. His experiences, laid bare on weathered pages, had helped them understand and confront the creature. The town, once indifferent to its history, now celebrated Harold as one of their own, a guardian who had tried to protect them from the creature all those years ago. Jack and Emma, having lived through the horror and the thrill of their investigation, found themselves closer than ever. United by their shared experiences and the creature they had discovered, they looked forward to the future, despite the uncertainties it held. As the sun set on Pinewood Hollow, there was a sense of collective relief. The town, having faced its deepest fears, had come out stronger. The residents, once skeptical of the old tales, were now part of a story that would become a legend in its own right. When the scientific community descended upon Pinewood Hollow, it was with a mix of skepticism and anticipation. What they found there was beyond anyone's wildest imagination, a creature that defied natural categorization, a living, breathing Bigfoot. News of the discovery swept across the world. The once quiet town was suddenly the epicenter of a scientific and media frenzy. Jack and Emma found themselves in the limelight, their lives irrevocably changed. Yet, through the chaos, they remained the steadfast protectors of their town and the creature they had captured. Bigfoot, or the entity they came to scientifically classify as Gigantopithecus americanus, was an enigma. It was like nothing they had ever seen, its intelligence and elusive nature challenging everything they knew about primates. The tranquilizers had subdued it, but it was clear the creature was merely biding its time, its vibrant eyes holding a silent promise of the might it could unleash. In the weeks that followed, stringent measures were put in place to study and contain the creature. Emma, Jack, and the townsfolk watched as their lives took a surreal turn, their once familiar town now forever a part of the world's most compelling mystery. Through it all, life continued in Pinewood Hollow. The children went back to school, their game of hide-and-seek now more thrilling with Bigfoot as an inspiration. The adults, still in awe of the events, found solace in the routine of their daily lives. The town had endured a horror, had faced a legend, and had come out stronger. Emma and Jack, having navigated the terror, the fear, and the mystery, found a newfound purpose. Their quiet lives had been disrupted, but they embraced the change, ready to face whatever the future held. As the world continued to grapple with the reality of Bigfoot, Pinewood Hollow reveled in its newfound peace. The legend had come to life, had brought terror, but in the end, it had united them. The tale of their encounter with Bigfoot, etched in the annals of Pinewood Hollow, was a testament to their courage and resilience. It was a tale of fear, of a monstrous legend, and of two brave individuals who dared to confront it. In the heart of the forest, the silent giant watched and waited, a chilling reminder of the horror and the thrill they had experienced. Bigfoot, the legend of Pinewood Hollow, was a tale they would pass down the generations, a tale that was now a part of their identity. In the end, the horror had become a legend, the legend had become their story, and their story had become a part of Pinewood Hollow. The tale of Bigfoot, once a whispered myth, was now a chilling reality, a reality they embraced with courage, resilience, and an undeniable sense of wonder. And there you have it, folks, a tale of terror, bravery, and a creature that's left an indelible mark on the annals of Pinewood Hollow. This encounter with Bigfoot turned a legend into a chilling reality, changing the lives of the townsfolk forever. As always, we thank you for joining us on this unnerving journey here at Horror Hues. If you enjoyed this story and somehow still have an appetite for more, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Remember, in the world of horror, nothing is as it seems. Stay curious, stay vigilant, And above all, stay scared. Until next time, this is Horror Hughes, signing off.